You guys didn't have an intro, right? It's just
No, it wasn't. It wasn't no intro.
That's what I thought. All right. Coder's rolling. You're good. There's the mics. You're live.
All right. This is co-host Jeremiah Pauling with Dome City TV podcast. I'm here waiting for. I don't want to give his government name out because y'all ain't supposed to know that. You got to Google that. But I'm here waiting for DJ Stacks Money. And he is in traffic right now, so we just going to get the show rolling. And when he get here, we going to continue it with him. We got a special guest today we're going to be talking to about, I'm going to talk to him about writing real quick because that wasn't in the plan. But since he late, we're going to talk about it anyway. Writing and everything like that. But this is a very important man in the Michigan area when it comes to entertainment in Hollywood and the importance of being a professional as an entertainer and being a professional in entertainment and as thorough as you possibly can be. I'm a student of his, so I say this as somebody who knows what the fuck I'm talking about. Right?
Right.
Right. So today's guest is going to be Emmy Award winning writer and producer, director, Mr. Charles Surginski.
Good evening. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
We call him Chuck.
Yeah, you can call me Chuck.
Chuck is a great instructor, and it's a shameless plug to the Actors Loft, but ode to his
Actors Loft.
Definitely the Actors Loft, but ode to your abilities as a teacher above all, no matter where you go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so it's very, very important aspect as a writer. How important is it though, like as a writer, to be good at it? I mean, it's important to be good at it, but how important is it to be good as a writer?
Oh, well.
Stacks Money, we started already.
Storytelling is what it's all about. So
Yeah.
if you can put something down on paper, you can always fix it. But you have to get it out of your head and put it down on paper.
Yeah.
That's what writing is all about.
My stuff is kind of messed up, but this one is showing on the laptop right there, and then that's what's happening. I don't think mine is actually recording right now. I don't know what is going on. Okay, I guess it's recording. Well, we were just talking about writing real quick, while you get settled. Talking about what Chuck do, about him being a Emmy Award winning writer, about him coming from Metro Detroit area. Where exactly were you from anyway, Chuck?
I was born in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, well.
But I moved to Detroit when I was 17
Yeah,
to go to Center for Creative Studies.
Yeah, so
or the
basically,
College of Creative Studies.
Yeah, so basically he's from Detroit. We took him over. Detroit take everything. You know what I'm saying? You ever know how Detroit take everything?
It's a mecca.
Yeah, they took Barry Sanders when he really did all that shit in Pontiac. Right. So that was Pontiac. They didn't even give Pontiac no credit. And then they took Kim, the singer Kim.
Yes.
He grew up in Pontiac. You know that?
Yep.
Yeah, right there in Pinewood in the projects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he talking about he from Detroit. You from Pontiac, man. Come on, man. Represent.
Well, you said he worked with Melanie Relative a lot.
Yeah, they do. They do. They work together a lot. But he need to rep the yak, man. Quit repping the D. Rep the yak. Get these little Yaktown kids some hope, man.
a lot of people. Madonna stayed in Pontiac.
Yeah.
David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody who used to hit Madonna though. Legit used to hit Madonna. I mean, I grew up with he was older than me, but I grew up. He was like an older uncle type, older drunk uncle type. But he was like the neighborhood drunk uncle. But he used to hit Madonna. But that's a whole. We gonna have to bring him in here when they get like, look, we need a guest. So that's when we gonna bring him in. Like, remember.
I want to be here for that.
Yeah, we have to bring him in and give him $20 or some shit. Yeah.
Say give him $20.
That's
Some Mohawk
$20.
back there.
Yeah.
The interview only worth $20.
Yep. So Hollywood now is different, from what you seen the evolution of it. I don't know if you call it an evolution or a devolution. I don't know how you want to look at it.
I guess you could call it de-evolution.
Yeah, because it's a lot different now. But with
Yes,
the internet and everything, how you think the internet has affected like Hollywood?
Well, I'd say probably the most profound effect on Hollywood right now is the streaming venues of Netflix,
yeah,
Hulu, Amazon Prime, and they're making a big dent because they're now producing their own content, and they have deep pockets because they're subscription companies, and they receive huge revenue on a monthly basis from a vast amount of people. I think the monthly intake for Netflix, for instance, I think it's quoted at almost $500 million a month.
$500 million a month.
Yes.
Damn, that's where they could throw Dave Chappelle like $6 million. Like, give us some comedy. That ain't shit.
Yeah, that's how you know that, the quality of like cable programming and all that stuff is pretty much down the drain. Like, nothing good even comes on cable anymore. Not really.
Wow.
A few things.
I never had cable, so I don't know. I was always poor and had to go over to my friend's house to watch cable and shit. Yeah, that's so. How do you think?
Cable?
Yeah, we stole it, but then they caught up because.
I'm pretty sure everybody else stole cable.
Yeah, we had to
They'll eventually hunt you down.
Yeah, they'll get you. So like, how do you adjust to that? Like, the situation.
Well, actually, as an independent filmmaker, it allows for actually a lot more freedom. There are now about 74 different ancillary marketplaces, venues, television, to get your stuff seen.
Yeah.
To get it purchased, distributed.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, it's actually, let me just give you a little bit of history. Okay. So independent filmmaking, has always been around.
Right.
However, when the studios came into the heyday, in the golden age of Hollywood, the moguls essentially controlled everything.
Right.
Then the advent of television affected the film industry hugely.
Right.
They actually changed the format of film at that point in time to be unlike television, which was a 4:3 ratio. Originally, 35 millimeter was shot 4:3.
Right.
And then once television came out, they went to CinemaScope, widescreen, basically a 1.44 to 1 ratio, which was unlike television, to basically maintain an audience.
Yeah.
Because it was, obviously not a square.
Yeah.
It was a panoramic. So that actually was the moment in which the motion picture industry began to produce some of its most, I would say, profound movies.
Yeah.
And then another interesting thing happened. A lot of the producers like, for instance, I was educated by Robert Wise and Ernest Lehman, who did West Side Story, Sound of Music, and they found that they were actually making product for these studios, but not receiving the benefit of it in terms of the profit.
Well, they always do that, don't they? They just, they always rip off the artists.
So they decided that they were some of the first producers to go independent of the studios. However, at that moment, they had to find a place or places to shoot. So a lot of films began to be shot on location at that moment in time.
Right.
And one of the things that was technologically effective at that moment was the fact that Kodak came out with a film stock that had a higher ISO rating, required less lighting, and could be essentially pushed in terms of its processing to a level of in which you wouldn't need anywhere near the lighting that you needed from the studio realm.
Okay.
So that allowed a huge freedom to producers. And a lot of the producers then began to shoot on location. But they also needed one other aspect, and that was distribution, of which most of the major studios controlled.
Right.
So
That's the key.
when the industry began to shift more toward that independent realm, obviously the
Right.
Hollywood studios got scared. And they started to create similar programming or product. And they tried to woo directors back to them.
Right.
And they started to really look at cinema students, Coppola, Lucas, Spielberg, numerous Terrence Malick,
Yeah.
filmmakers that had a background in film rather than kind of going through the process
Right.
of apprenticeship that
Right.
the studios offered.
Right.
So you had kind of a whole new regime that moved in of auteur directors that were American,
Right.
that were not studio-based. And then from there, once that began rolling, suddenly you had a situation where the invention of Betacam, Beta by Sony, and then VHS by the Victor Corporation shifted the independent realm hugely.
So it was like taking like how everything is. It was like the same type of thing where now digital everybody got, and it just changed the game.
The thing is the distribution element that was viable for independents with regard to selling tapes.
Yeah.
The original wholesale price per tape was $58
Damn. Per tape
per tape.
to make it.
No, to sell it.
Oh, to sell it. Damn.
No, their profit margin was extraordinary on that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But what happened is that you had back in the day you had mom and pops, that any little video store around the
Right,
block,
right.
and that was the idea is that you could walk to a video store or drive to a video store in your neighborhood and pick out A titles and any film that essentially had been transferred to videotape.
Right.
What that did to the industry was extraordinary for the independents because it allowed for independent filmmakers to make films under $500,000, and if they sold approximately 10,000 units
That was it.
in videotape,
Right.
they would actually recoup because
Right.
they'd get about 580,000 at that point. If they sold 20,000,
Right.
they'd be in the $1 million plus
Right.
realm.
Right.
So.
Wow. That was dope for back in the day.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
so there was a plethora of filmmakers being able to actually work independently. That, we were
Right.
shooting on film at that time
Right,
still.
right.
16 millimeter or Super 16.
Right,
and then
right.
if it did get a theatrical release, it'd be bumped up to 35 millimeter. But in most cases, if it went direct to video,
Yeah.
they would just, process it, make the film, and put it on videotape.
You talk about like distribution. I'll be noticing like a lot of movies. I think distribution is how important is distribution? Because people I think about when I did think about distribution.
Digital.
Yeah, I mean it's all digital. A lot of it is digital, but it's still like you still got to have like deliverables for certain platforms.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Yeah, distribution, by and large, most independent films make their money in the foreign markets
yeah,
because domestic distribution, U.S., Canada, sometimes Mexico, doesn't really provide that big of a venue for them and that big of a payout.
wow,
For instance, I know a lot of independent films that Netflix has purchased, and usually that's about in the $30,000 range for, say, a $250,000 to $500,000 to $1 million film.
Really?
With a name in it.
Right.
But
I mean, naming it means somebody who's worth something.
Right.
You can't just
And
put me in your movie and be like, people gonna see it because Jeremiah Pauling. Like,
right.
no, you got to have somebody thorough.
Right.
Like Denzel Washington in this movie. You got to go see this shit.
Well,
For those who don't know what the name.
Denzel would be pretty hard to get, but
Yeah.
certainly
He ain't cheap.
television names who are recognizable
Right.
that will allow for immediate recognition by a viewer or a person that goes to,
Right.
a given website, Netflix, or on their TV when they do a search. Mm-hmm. That's the difficult thing about Netflix and Amazon Prime and even Hulu.
Yeah.
You have to specifically know what you're looking for.
Right.
And so films that don't have names in it, that don't have any recognition from either theatrical release or another television release or something.
What about like the Sundance Film Festival?
Yeah, exactly.
Those help though, right?
Festival winners, definitely. But I mean, Sundance has their own channel too.
They do. That's true. Yeah, they do.
Which is their platform for initially for any of the winners of Sundance, but obviously they have a life after that. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting today is that film has a much longer life.
Yeah.
Back in the day,
Right.
you went to a movie theater, you saw a film.
It was it.
Okay. Then about 2 years to 3 years later,
Right.
you'd end up on network TV.
Right.
Okay. So that was a big lag between.
That was a big lag. Right.
So, or in museums and
Yeah.
in terms of being in repertoire or
Right.
something they would profile.
Now it's different. Now it's like you got a
profile
movie, you got a movie coming out, and it's out before it's even in the theaters and shit. Like, how did you even get you got the bootleg already?
Right.
The movie ain't
Somebody
even
BitTorrented it or something.
Yeah, somebody already got the movie now. It's. I mean, you ain't
One
supposed.
day digital.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Well, and the lag between initial release on theatrical
Yeah.
shifted to within the last 5 years shifted to same day release.
Right,
on
right.
DVD and
Wow.
and streaming, simply because they realized that first of all, bootlegging does have a certain effect on that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
also, certain people go to the movie theater
Because
to see
we
a film.
bootleg everything. Black people ain't buying shit. we bootlegging like fire sticks and shit.
We buy stuff we like.
Yeah, we buy the fire stick, but we gonna bootleg the content. We gonna bootleg, so we gonna jailbreak the motherfucker. We gonna jailbreak the shit out of it. I know I got a jailbroke Roku stick and Amazon Fire Stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that damaged the industry too. Like, and I shouldn't be doing it.
You shouldn't be doing that because eventually that's your paycheck.
I know that's fucked up, right?
It's going away.
Yeah, that is fucked. I shouldn't be bootlegging it, but
Yeah,
hey.
Hey, like I said, some people go to the theaters, some people
Yeah.
don't. So the industry decided, well, if we release the film on the same
Right.
day
Right.
on both platforms,
Right.
then we're going to capture the greatest amount of audience
The greatest
within the
amount of
shortest
audience.
period of time.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for. They're looking
Yeah.
for the biggest bang for their buck.
Yeah, that's because like a lot of the theater is an experience, you
Right.
know,
Right.
and
It's an event.
yeah, it's an event. When you at home and you watching the movie, you can stop, go, check the mail, take a piss, all this, you can do all this shit, and it ain't like.
And you know why you can do that? Because you
Yeah.
always know that you can watch it again.
You know you can watch it again, or you can
Exactly.
pause it.
Or you can
you
pause
can
it.
just pause
Yep.
it, rewind 30 seconds, come back, and just get back in your, rub
Exactly.
your girl feet, whatever. And
Which actually is, I mean, it's really a great thing for people who are cinephiles as well as people who are studying film.
cinephiles, I know what that means, but that is that's a cinephile. That's a dope word for it. Just love to go to the movies, right?
What it allows for
That's dope.
is people that want to study cinema
Yeah.
to be able to see a film
Yeah.
multiple times,
Yeah.
to hear commentary from principals, directors, producers, actors.
Yeah.
Most
Director's cut.
DVDs and even the streaming elements have the commentary part of it now.
That's a dope. I always like that part because you can learn.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it's
huge
like a
amount.
new. It's like a whole new movie.
Right.
Yeah. So even if you're
I mean,
not like
I actually think that people, just by doing that,
yeah,
would, coupled with a certain amount of academic classes and things like that, would
like
greatly
yours.
benefit.
No.
Yeah, like my class.
it would greatly benefit. Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, once you saw a movie,
Yeah.
You walked away from a theater,
Yeah.
you wouldn't see that movie maybe 2 or 3 years later on the television screen.
Yeah.
And at
then
that
it went
point,
to VHS.
At that point,
my
you couldn't record it.
Right. Right. Well,
And
no.
then once you were able to record it, that really did shift the entire, I think, educational process. MTV obviously had a huge influence on the style of filmmaking because a lot of MTV music video directors and producers were able to take things that were experimental in music video and then put them to work or utilize them in filmmaking. And so there was a huge shift in the style of filmmaking.
Right.
From the early days.
Right.
Along with acting, Meisner, the method,
Right.
and actors actually becoming a
Right.
part.
Yeah. I was gonna get to that too because nowadays it's like a lot because of the digital age. Like the shift has changed from like what they call traditional actors to like YouTubers and these guys are getting like millions of dollars and followers and like a lot of money. How do you think that affects like the way talent is approached like in the industry?
I mean, I think it's actually pretty amazing because what it allows for. I mean, Justin Bieber, for instance, would have never have been discovered if he had not been on the internet.
I love Justin Bieber. I ain't gonna lie. I do. I love the Bieb.
I think he's,
I love Bieber.
I'm just saying that. I mean, whether you like him or not, he's a talent.
He is, and a great talent. He's not
there are numerous
slack
talent
at all
that have been discovered in that capacity
That's
of
true.
just being available. And so, in terms of how acting has changed based upon the internet and the access to millions of people in niche realms, that's to me the greatest benefit is actually that you can make a movie today for a very small amount of people.
Right.
If you don't spend that much money, you can still get your art out there.
Right.
And get your ideas seen.
You can get them seen.
And be discovered.
Definitely.
Now,
definitely.
The discovery is a little bit different, I think, than it used to be in the day.
Yeah.
Because fewer people could get discovered. The doors were closed.
Back in the day?
Yeah, back in the day.
Right.
I mean, and in the studio realm, for instance, you could go.
Slide over. You want this seat? Okay, I figured that'd be best because then everybody be here too.
So back in the studio days, people were employed on a salary level.
Right.
Actors, directors, technicians. So from that standpoint, you could work your way up through the system.
Right.
Or get discovered once you were in the system.
Right,
But
right.
Getting in the system was very difficult.
That was a problem.
That was
Right.
very difficult. Getting your foot in the door, as they used to say.
Right. Now I look at the internet as you don't have to go through that realm now. Like
No, you
can
don't.
build your own.
Yeah, you can
and
build your
that's
own
the-
following.
Yeah, you can build your own following, and that's I like to use the metaphor of it's a metaphor I use about like I take like MC Hammer. Like MC Hammer built his following, and then he sold his music out of his trunk. he was somebody who was building his following on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to record labels trying to sign him, he was turning down deals because he can make
he
money.
Could do it on his own.
On his own.
Yeah.
And I look at how he did it and how his mind frame was thinking of it, and I look at a great rapper like J. Cole. He was like waiting out for Jay-Z at the outside of the office building. Like, Jay, check out my mixtape. I'm dope.
Right.
Yeah, you dope. But where your following?
Right.
And so your dopeness, you know what I'm saying? So that
you're only as good as your base.
You gotta build that base.
Yeah.
And then and then in turn
it's
that
about
gives
selling records
and being sellable.
Yeah.
And when even as an actor or whatever you do, when you become in entertainment, it's about the marketability of what you bring to the table, and your who's fucking with you. You know. And if you bring that along with what you got some kind of leverage. You're not just your hands open.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I just noticed that about
and I think the benefit of that is it really lets artists be artists.
Yeah.
And find their niche.
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to being, kind of packaged and sold.
Yeah. And it allows a lot of freedom.
Because usually when you're packaged and sold, the first manifestation of that is you're getting screwed by a record company.
You're getting screwed, yeah. And that's how it goes. It's a lot of ways that they screw you even worse over now with, like, the deals that they got, like, with, like, 360 deals and stuff of that nature. They screw you over bad.
Yeah.
Being...
I mean, even in the day, like, for instance, George Michael, when, he was picked up by Sony.
Yeah.
And they basically told him he had to produce X album in X time with X content.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'm an artist. I don't, I just don't pump shit out and repeat the same thing I do just so that you can make more money. I'm an artist.
Right.
I want to be original. I want to do new.
Right.
But, what's really interesting about fan base like that and what drives that marketplace, just like in film, is that there's an expectation when somebody goes to a concert to see an artist.
Right.
They want to hear the standards.
Right.
And when they have to, when an artist, a musician wants to bust it out, they got it. It's a very tenuous course at that point.
Yeah.
Like if they don't do a numerous amount of their standard material that everybody's used to hearing, that's why they love them.
Right.
Then they're looked upon differently by their fan base.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's hard for people to adjust to new.
To the new.
Yeah.
Right.
We all know about that in storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Change is hard.
Yeah. So being that, I'm in that realm, I'm an independent, record producer, have my own company and everything like that. I studied, the different companies over the years that there's been quite many of independent companies that have been very successful in producing their own music. The thing is, I think how the fan base changed and how people acquire their music changed, and that's what really hurt the independent market as far as like the mom and pop stores and things like that. You can still have an online presence and be very successful in the music industry without a major deal. But I think for people that need that fine tuning, people that need some financial backing, things like that, and they just don't have either the patience or the will to go out and make it happen for themselves.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at too what kind of damage Napster did, for instance.
Right.
Napster created a situation in which every young person that was listening to music thought music should be free. And I knew guys at Sony.
Yeah.
I knew Jimmy Einer and his father who ran Sony Music, and there were 278 producers. When Bertelsmann, the BMG, when they bought out Sony, they pink slipped all but 6 people, but 6 producers in one day.
In one day.
Boom, gone. Because producers were dead. Because people were producing music on their own, or there was no revenue. You know, there was only revenue through BMI and ASCAP to the artists.
Right.
For a record company,
Right.
the revenue stream went away because it was free.
Right.
You know, and people, like Don Was, and I mean, great producers that found that, their world was gone. Essentially.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
I mean, George Martin, even.
Right.
And I'm not saying things change.
Right.
And I'm not saying evolution is bad. I'm just saying that when, you have a livelihood that suddenly is gone,
Yeah.
it kind of screws things up.
Yeah, it do.
You see, but you had a lot of producers that were sitting around waiting for the label to bring them artists instead of going out
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
and finding talent and sculpting it themselves. And,
It was a two-way street, definitely.
Yeah, so that's
But
that's
the
what you see
idea
a
of
lot
free music, I think that was Napster was a really bad thing for the industry.
Yeah, it really
That's why
was.
you look at now.
Even though I enjoyed it.
Well, they didn't know how to.
Fagan and Becker from Steely Dan were studio musicians. They never did a concert in their life, okay? Until there was no revenue stream for them any longer.
Damn.
So they started doing live shows,
Yeah.
selling swag.
Yeah.
That's where,
Yeah.
Got to capitalize off
But
it.
when you look at Napster, you kind of equate it to maybe like FM radio or something. FM radio, quote unquote, pays for advertising and different things like that, and that's how the radio companies make money, pay artists and all those different things. But essentially, to the consumer that turns on the radio, we're not paying to hear the music.
Exactly. But you also don't have selectivity.
No, you don't.
No.
You have to listen to what the DJ's playing.
Yeah.
Right.
And the DJ will play the playlist,
Yeah, the playlist.
which will be 25 songs daily
Daily,
that get
the same,
replayed,
right.
replayed,
Right.
and
Right.
replayed.
Pounded
and
in,
we're
right.
tired of
And
that.
obviously, when cassettes were invented or reel to reel,
Yeah.
people would record that and
That
do their
would-
own mixtapes.
Yeah, mixtapes. Yeah.
And of course,
So you
like,
did have the availability to select what you had.
Yeah.
I remember, as a kid, I started DJing on like the home stereo. It had
Cool.
the turntable on the top
Yeah.
and the two, CD,
Yeah, two CD,
two cassette
two
players.
cassette
Right.
players, yeah.
One to play, one to record.
Exactly.
That's how I learned. Like I learned how to do pause tapes and mix and everything on the house stereo, just playing around with it. So that's how I got into DJing. That's how I got into production, things like that. And you're right. We always made our own mixtapes because we got tired of listening to what was on the radio.
I had a friend that owned a bar in East Dearborn back in the 70s and early 80s. And
right back.
interesting thing that happened was this man came in one day. He kind of looked like Columbo, actually. He had a trench coat and a hat. And he'd sit in there, listen. He'd buy drinks. And about, start talking to the owner. The owner, he'd ask him, hey, I love your music. Like, who does this music? Who does your mixtapes? And owner proudly says, he does, And so about 3 weeks later, this guy comes in with a bill for $30,000.
Wow.
He was an ASCAP BMI representative.
Wow.
And he figured that, that was given that bar had already been in business for 12 years, on a daily basis, music that was played without a jukebox, without tracking it in any capacity, that owner owed at least, that was like 10% of what that owner really owed.
Wow, for playing.
And,
music,
that's for the artist.
So, but how did nightclubs get away with, spinning music? Because you had a
Well,
DJ.
now I hear there's a new,
I mean, back then, like,
Yeah.
early days of rock, hip hop, and different things like that.
Yeah.
You had a DJ spinning tunes.
Exactly.
From record
Right.
to record.
Yep.
Nobody was
Vinyl
tracking
to vinyl.
what they were,
No,
what
they
they were
weren't.
doing, and coming to collect fees or anything.
Yeah, legitimately, I think there were probably certain clubs that they did investigate and or, charge people for.
What was that club in New York? What was it called? Studio?
Limelight or Studio 54.
Yeah, Studio 54.
Those
I-
big clubs
I
where,
heard the story
where you've got
about those.
where you've got like 10,000 people on a given night going through a club. I mean, Limelight was in a huge church. That there were easily I would say 5,000 to 10,000 people that went through that on a given night.
Away from that one. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, the fucking up shit.
No, I'm just saying so that it doesn't.
Oh,
So
okay.
that you don't spill your drink on it.
Oh yeah. Shoot.
Well, you know, it's
What
interesting
happened?
because you were talking about doing your own mixtapes and kind of being your own producer and everything with your home phonograph and
Right.
cassettes. I mean, you know, the whole rap movement was born out of the necessity of art,
Right.
right? I mean, people who basically were doing spoken word that transformed that into a backbeat and then started recording it. And then
Yeah.
one day they said, oh, we could sample shit.
Right.
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 They started sampling shit.
Yep.
Because they basically, a lot of guys use their own boombox. And
Right.
like 2 boomboxes and record it off of each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
You know? And,
Yeah.
and in that, you know, suddenly other artists were saying, hey, you're using my music
Yeah.
to make your music.
Yeah.
And it went on for a long time.
Yeah.
Until James Brown obviously sued
Yeah.
and won the case. And,
Right.
you know,
Who did he
sampling.
actually sue for that?
He sued multiple artists.
Oh, okay, multiple. Because he was like one
He
of
was
the main.
the most sampled.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
the most
well,
sampled.
that, and interesting, but Grant Green, the jazz guitarist,
Mm-hmm.
is sampled hugely by rap artists.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of content that's sampled. You know, but that's where it started. You had to take something
That was available.
Already.
you know, and
And
make it
remix
new.
Right.
it. That's what it shit is about.
So, you know.
And I mean, I think that's highly inventive. I think
Right.
it's born out of necessity to create.
Yeah.
And in a way, you know, so when I look at some of the songs that have come out that have that element of another song, like
Right.
Under Pressure
Right.
or
right.
Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and just I mean, even early Eminem. You know,
Right.
Oh yeah.
to me, that's a huge compliment to the previous artist.
Oh yeah.
To
Definitely.
sample their work.
Definitely.
That artist would say, look,
Yeah.
I get this person, I
Yeah.
get the art of it,
Yeah.
and I want to make that a part of my art.
And they the other per artist like, yeah, I get that, but you got to pay me.
Exactly.
So you know what I'm saying? You got to come up out that pocket.
And
it ain't gonna be free for your
I
inspiration.
understand the monetary part of it because it's like hey, if you sample a record and you know you go double platinum, triple platinum, you should
You should.
Oh, absolutely.
break that artist.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, you should break that
Not
artist
only
off.
just
I-
pay homage like thanks for letting me use your
Right,
record,
but you should
Yeah.
pay money.
You should pay
And
money.
because
Yeah.
eventually that artist reaches that level where then he's being
Right,
sampled.
right. He being sampled.
Or
Yeah.
she's being sampled.
Yeah.
all the songs that have been sampled over the years that in turn make new songs and new samples and bits and things like that, and it just
Yeah.
keeps going. But that's the creativity, you know.
And they should be compensated because the record label raped
But
them.
you know, it's
so they
interesting.
should get something.
But it's
that's the
interesting
thing.
when you see this shift then that they don't want to compensate or they don't want to use sampling any longer. So what do? They bring in another artist
Or a live band.
or a live band to do, you know,
The vocals or
yeah,
things
which
like that,
which
the
is
arrangement.
really supplanting that sampling aspect of it.
yeah.
But that again, the evolution of that is brilliant.
Right.
You know, it's.
That
I mean, I
is
think
true.
that the way spoken word went to rap, went to hip hop,
Yeah.
went to sampling, went to then original artists.
Yeah.
Right.
Creating kind of that sampling same quality
Right,
was
right.
brilliant.
Right.
You know, it's
Definitely,
beautiful.
Definitely, it's always good. I think like to piggyback on what we were talking about earlier, just being able to be independent and create without somebody telling you no, it has to be like this. No, it has like using your own train of thought, your mind. You know what I'm saying? Working with your friends, coworkers, buddies. You know, coming up with these different ideas and concepts. Like I think I remember reading about how was it Lucas?
George Lucas?
Yeah, George Lucas came up with the different episodes for Star Wars and things like that. And
Well, it's interesting because there's a new documentary out in Spielberg, and that new documentary, there were a group of artists, filmmakers: Scorsese, Brian De Palma, Zemeckis, Spielberg, Lucas,
Yeah.
Coppola,
okay.
that would get together
Yeah.
on a bi-monthly basis.
Yeah. You said we need to be doing that.
And they would. That was a salon.
Yeah.
It was it was the same thing that happened back in France during the even the Belle Epoque at the turn of the century, and then into the 20s when you had Hemingway, Dali, Man Ray, Buñuel, all these great artists in many different, from literature to film to plastic art to really even philosophy. Sartre, Jean-Paul Sartre.
Yeah.
You know, and that like cauldron of brilliance and creativity bore like this incredible fruit. They all fed off of each other.
Right. That's
And
what
one
I've been
thing,
talking about.
and one thing I find, because I've tried to set up salons like that before, and for some reason, there always ends up being this ego moment for somebody, and you know, or a battle out, and it's like. And even if you set up the premise that this is all benevolent, it's all about nobody owns anything, but everybody owns everything. You know? We're all collaborators.
Right.
We all steal from each other anyway.
Right. So as long as everybody gets credit, you'll get paid.
Exactly.
Right.
You know? And you know, it's interesting because George Lucas didn't even come up with that flying prologue to Star Wars, the original, you know, Star Wars #4, A New Hope. That was actually Brian De Palma's idea. He said, you know, you've got a mythos here. You've got a structure of a story that is new and fresh, but the audience needs to be brought up to speed. So he says, why don't you do a prologue that comes from infinity and goes over the tops of their heads, and then boom, when it comes in, that monster, you know, destroyer from the Empire, you know, and it's brilliant. But that wasn't George's idea.
Right.
But we all think
It's
it
a
is.
brilliant idea, and it's
just
epic,
like
whenever
Psycho.
You see it, you always think of Star Wars.
The actual death scene where Janet Leigh is killed actually was directed.
Spoiler alert.
Not by Hitchcock, but by Saul Bass, who also created the poster for it. You know, and was a great graphic designer, and he made films on his own too.
I mean, but it was probably his visual brain that made that scene in the first place.
Exactly.
I
mean, he actually storyboarded it and basically gave that to Hitchcock.
I remember taking a film class, and we watched a lot of Hitchcock movies. And I actually was like just amazed by some of the older films that he had did that I never knew he did.
Oh yeah, some of the films he did in England.
Yeah, he did some great work. Great work.
He beat a lot of actors up, but he made some great movies.
I heard he was pretty much an asshole.
You talk about the womanizing that's going on, or that the
womanizing,
sexual harassment. What he did to Tippi Hedren was outrageous.
Really,
I mean, he wanted her. In fact, his wife was a film editor for him.
Right.
She's in the car with him.
They collaborated on.
She's in the car with him, and he's dealing Tippi.
Really,
saying like whatever, give me head, or fuck me. And
wow, it's
and
funny.
Tippy's like, and then you know what he does? He says, "Do you want to keep your child?"
Wow.
Melanie Griffith was her daughter,
and she was one of the people who spoke up about this shit going on.
Yeah,
right.
And Tippi literally,
that's crazy.
Had to do whatever Hitchcock said, but she claims that she never succumbed sexually to him.
Wow.
Right. But he damaged her badly.
Wow.
I mean, in the birds, in the attic scene, that was all supposed to be mechanical birds in complete control. When the birds weren't working properly, he started to throw real birds at her, and they actually clawed and scratched her, beaked her face.
Yeah. Wow.
And he did multiple, in the takes of like 60 or 70 takes.
Wow.
That's a lot of birds.
And didn't let her out during all of that. No break to get that performance.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a
lot. That's a little bit extreme.
That's extreme. That's
I'd say that's abuse.
with all the stuff coming out in Hollywood right now, you got
the Weinstein
the Weinstein scandal.
Kevin Spacey.
You had Bill Cosby. Which one? Not Corey Haim, but the other Corey.
Corey Feldman.
Yeah, Corey Feldman's coming out speaking about.
He been speaking about it.
He has
been talking about
it. But he's back in the spotlight.
He's back in the spotlight, right?
Recently.
It's a hot
it's
topic
just like,
now.
wow, like you always hear the stories about Hollywood and the things,
Well,
about
I got some great stories about
things
Hollywood
that
back
go
in the
on.
day.
So,
I know you do. That's why I said this was a great time for him to be a guest.
but it's just
This is the perfect time. He has great stories.
the thing that gets me about the stuff in Hollywood is like this. Okay, it's been 20, 30 years for some of these people, and I understand that you've been traumatized and stuff, but why bring it out now? It's like, if
Well, I think it's all about the head of the fish.
Yeah, it's always
It's
about the head of the
Donald
fish.
Trump. Donald Trump, actually, as president, brought all this out. He really did.
I could believe
The
that.
recording of him with Bush when they're going to that
Yeah.
RV, talking about grabbing pussy and all that bullshit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously there is locker room talk.
Right,
You know?
right.
Women do it, men do it,
Men do it. Right.
but
Women do it like a
but
motherfucker.
the difference between that locker room talk and then utilizing power
Right.
to actually force
To
people
actually
to
do
shit
it. You're right. It's different.
is a different story.
It's a big difference.
Definitely is. Definitely is.
And at that point,
I-
it becomes assault if it's not consensual.
But I ain't been waiting no 20, 30 years to come out. Like, I'm coming out after it happened. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you, I was at a party in New York City during IFFM,
Yeah.
probably back in about 1994,
Yeah.
and I was in the VIP area. Harvey
Yeah.
Weinstein, his brother's sitting on one end of the couch, he's sitting on the other.
He on
end
trial
of the
too
couch.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So suddenly he's talking to this girl, and he's sitting, she's standing, and he snakes his hand right up her dress,
Yeah.
and bang, literally penetrated her.
Wow.
She was like,
We all fascinated. Wow.
she was frozen, literally shocked that this man did this.
Wow.
So about a half hour later, I approached her and I said, you should call the police. You have witnesses right now.
Yeah.
You can nip this in the bud.
Yeah.
And she was still a little bit in shock, but she just said, I hate the fact that he did it, but if I do that,
Ain't got
I'm
no
gone.
I
career.
won't be working in Hollywood.
I won't be doing
That's
anything.
fucked up, man. And that's fucked up. I'm gonna tell you.
That's what's fucked up about that is
Yeah.
that somebody can have that much power over another human being,
Right.
that they can violate them like that.
Yeah, I don't agree
I
with
mean, if
that.
he pulled out a gun and shot her in the head, he couldn't have gotten away with
He
that.
couldn't have
right?
got away with that. But
But he can bang her.
penetrate.
He
Yeah.
can finger bang her.
Yeah,
in
and
public.
get away with it. Yeah.
Reminds you of the story is the video vixens in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Things like that was happening. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. My comedy is I talk about a lot of sex and stuff like that, and I'm considered a sexual person, but when it comes to something of that realm, that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't
breaking
believe
the
in
law at that point.
predatorialism. Yeah,
Yeah.
predatorial. Because I'm gonna say because I was approached when I was a kid. It was funny when all this stuff was coming out. I'm sitting there, I'm doing this research, and then old memories come back. It was my mama had a guy used to come over and cut the grass, and he had employees, and it was neighborhood guys. So one of the guys was walking up the street. He was like a mentally challenged kid, and he had some Hot Wheels, and he was like, he came over. Me and my brother was all outside playing. He was like, look at these cars. So we all was, we knew him. We was familiar with him. So he was like, whatever,
Yeah.
it's him. So he pulled out, the Matchbox cars, and we playing with them. We're like, these dope. We ain't got none. He was like, touch my penis and I give you a car.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny in hindsight the
Yeah.
way it came out. But
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
Yeah. he was like,
back,
touch my
back
penis
in the
like give
day,
you a
there
car.
was a kid in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
He was probably
I was like, no. I'm not touching your
16
penis.
years old, 15, 16 years old, and he brought all these kids down in the basement.
Yeah.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
And he told us to drop our pants, and then he
Yeah.
painted like 5 kids' penises green paint, oil paint.
Wow.
Wow.
He did get his butt kicked, and he went to juvie.
Yeah, he should have got his ass kicked. Yeah. So I didn't touch his
Thank
penis.
Luckily, I was like the 7th kid.
Yeah.
So I ran out.
Right. You're out of paint. I'm out. Pants around your ankles and shit.
I didn't want to be the Jolly
Yeah.
Green Giant, man.
Yeah, that's just wrong. You don't pry on innocent children. Leave them alone because they can grow up and might fuck you up one day. Leave them alone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They gonna grow up. That's what people. They gonna grow up and they gonna eventually, say some shit. You can't get away with that shit, and it's wrong. So don't do it.
Right.
You don't offer your
Well, I mean,
Matchbox
again,
cars.
There's a lot
Touch
of
your
things that
penis.
happen, and you just don't have any control over these things.
Yeah.
And as a child, you're
You have
easily
less control.
intimidated.
Yeah.
You're easily intimidated.
Easily
If somebody
intimidated.
says, I'm gonna hurt you, I'm gonna do something to your
Yeah.
family. If you don't, you tell anybody, I'm gonna
Right.
do, things like that. And
Yeah.
it was actually people that followed through with these things.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
actually killed kids and
Yeah.
all of this crazy business. So we seen
Yeah,
who
it
was
is
it?
In cold blood.
Plenty of serial killers over the years
Right.
that murdered and raped children.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely
That's
a scary
fucked up
thought.
thing. Did you tell that kid one thing? Because I know because I had a situation where my cousin and brought her kids over and they stayed with my mom. I was staying there. We was all staying up in his house, and I had little cousins. And I was like, look, y'all don't let no man touch y'all in the way y'all don't want to be touched. I tell them kids, I tell the kids this flat out. You don't let this shit happen.
Right.
I let them know early.
Yeah.
7. Look, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Early,
Right.
like this shit ain't
Yeah,
right.
so they know.
You know this shit ain't
Yeah.
right. Don't nobody do this.
And don't
Because
be afraid to
I've been
tell.
through that realm. I
Right.
know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like. Look, nigga, you gonna need to know now.
Absolutely.
You too, nigga. Don't look, nigga. If motherfucker touch your diaper too long. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a problem. We ain't gonna have this shit.
Right.
So I told my cousins this, and then one of my little cousins went to school, and she was assaulted by some of her classmates. And what I had told her, I went up to school to check on her because I, went to go check on her to see what had happened. And I went up there and I took her to the side. I said, "So, did you kick him in the nuts?" She was like, "Yeah, I kicked him in the nuts." Because that's what I told her. I said, anybody ever try to fuck with you, you kick them in the nuts.
Right.
And you
Defend
kick them
yourself.
in their goddamn nuts. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, because it's a real possibility that shit might happen.
Right.
And it happened, and she kicked him in the nuts. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, I kicked him in the nuts. Let him know. You got to let them know that shit might happen.
Right.
And if it do happen,
Gotta defend yourself.
You got to defend yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to be ready for what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And it's the reality we got to live with today. And it should not happen. And
I mean, I think what's interesting is that this new information with various people in the media as well as in government, it's been going on for a long time.
too long.
It is kind of a human condition. I mean, I remember as a kid, not only the kid that was painting penises green, but you had
Right.
like television newscasts about somebody who was flashing, or,
Yeah.
elementary school
Yeah.
or something like that, and or they put up signs sometimes in our neighborhood,
Right.
on the telephone poles that say, "Watch out for this man," or this
Wow.
and this woman in some
Right,
cases.
Right.
Sometimes it ain't no picture.
Yeah,
It ain't no warning sign.
but
It just happen.
I think the need for again children to be aware.
Awareness, yeah.
Yeah, and that aspect of it is important. I just hope it doesn't go overboard to the extent of not allowing kids to actually flirt with each other.
Yeah, they gotta flirt.
Or young adults to
Yeah,
flirt with
yeah.
each
You
other.
gotta flirt. You gotta learn how to.
I mean, I
deal
can
with
tell
rejection.
you, there was a really interesting moment in my life.
Yeah.
I interviewed Buckminster Fuller back in about, I think it was about maybe 1984 or something.
I was 2.
It was probably 84 or 85. And Buckminster Fuller said one thing. He said, there is going to be this plague that is going to be born in the neuter race, the gender, neuter gender, which means in the gay world,
Yeah.
and that it is going to cause both men and women to fear having sex in a way in which, I mean, like for instance, gonorrhea, syphilis, most of the STDs are curable, or even then were curable,
Right.
or treatable. This was a plague, he said. And I can tell you it was kind of a defining moment in my mind because women that I met that were under, like, even into 1990, in, say, mid-2005, like 2005, most of the women that I would meet were bisexual. And most of their encounters, their first sexual encounters, were with women because they felt safer. Because they thought, I mean,
Well, we got something in common.
projecting, that idea from Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah.
They felt that at least if a woman got together with a woman, there wasn't any penetration. There wasn't really,
It'll be soft. It'll be more understanding. That's interesting.
bodily fluids exchanged.
Yeah.
Right.
In the same way that they are when heterosexuals have sex.
But women is always like that anyway, because I think women are more free sexually, because I work with women. Like, I used to do hair in the salon, and they would grab each other's titties all the time. And you know what I'm saying?
I just saw that last night in the bar. Two girls with big boobs
oh my
going like
God,
that.
your tits look great. Yeah. They would slap each other's ass.
With each other.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
They hang out with each other. My girlfriend and my sister met for the first time. My sister was like, "Oh my God, your titties look great." Like,
Did you see some guy going up to some other guy going, "Hey, you got a nice
You're right.
package."
You got great dick, man. Look at that 10-incher. What the fuck, man? How'd you get that? It's like, I'm about to sock the shit out of you right now. You know what I'm saying? You can't just go touch my penis like that, man.
One of the things I noticed and that I pay attention from history, they always say history repeats itself. So a lot of things, if you go back in history and look, a lot of things that are happening now happened previous.
Yeah. I mean, there were sapphic societies.
It never changed. That's the thing. It never changed.
I mean, the word Lesbos comes from a word that's generated
in the island of Lesbos.
Yeah, exactly.
When they used to train for Greek.
Yep.
And for the Olympics and all that shit. That's where it comes from.
But you, like I said, you notice that, like, it peaks, then it goes back down, and then it peaks again. And people think they started something new, but no, it's already happened.
It's just a cycle. It's just a cycle, yeah.
And a lot of that, happened back during Greek and Roman times. A lot of
It ain't never stopped.
men sleeping with men for masculinity.
Right. The idea of the orgy.
Yeah. They sat in bathhouses smoking opium and
all type of shit.
Philosophizing. Ideas that they stole.
Right. Which I don't have a problem with. My only issue is the motherfuckers want to banish the people who doing this shit openly. Y'all doing this secretly. But in power, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You speaking negatively about it, but you doing exactly my thing. Leave motherfuckers alone. You know what I'm saying? Leave motherfuckers alone. Y'all doing exactly what you claim is wrong.
With drugs. It's like the same thing with drugs. You got the war on drugs, okay?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you find out the head of the DA's wife is a cocaine addict, and he's been feeding her stuff, and he's been actually gaining volumes of cocaine for not only her but for his friends.
Right. All type of shit. Yeah. Just contradictory shit. Yeah.
Power corrupts.
Yeah, power corrupts.
And ultimate power corrupts ultimately.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Speaking
Whatever.
of power
Absolutely.
corrupts, the latest thing I was reading on Trump, now he's trying to turn the hand towards the Democrats and have the Democratic Party investigated. Especially Hillary Clinton, saying that she bought the DNC and basically stole everything from Bernie. Like, she paid for the party to basically pick her as the candidate and push forward. So that's some new information coming out.
Yeah, of course he's going to say that when he's been compromised by the Russians enormously.
You're right.
I mean, I would say that. Probably within the next year or two, we're going to see that dossier come out. Where he's urinating on children or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Definitely.
This is a horrible election anyway.
He's the most vocal president that we've had.
Yeah, he need to shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Definitely with the least capability of language.
Right.
He was all right. He was all right until he became the president. Like, did you disregard Trump until this motherfucker became president?
Well, I always knew he was a crook.
You did.
Because my brother and other people that I know had dealings with him in which he failed to pay, or he somehow reneged on a deal, or flipped it around to his benefit.
I didn't know about all that.
People call that good business. I don't call that good business. Good business is when you shake a hand to somebody and you have integrity to deliver.
Yeah,
you don't steal from people.
Mutual
or not pay them.
You don't pay them,
not paying them is the same thing as larceny.
Yeah. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest right now, because we both here. I voted for Donald Trump.
You told me that before.
Okay, you didn't know. Yeah,
I voted Green Party.
I voted
I
for
voted
Bernie.
for Donald Trump. Because I
I
wanted
voted
Bernie,
when-
but he didn't make it to. I only
Well,
voted.
yeah,
in the
I
minute.
initially voted for Bernie, but when he
Yeah.
didn't make it, and it
Yeah.
was Hillary
You went Green?
and Trump, I went Green Party.
Yeah, but see,
That's my
we
de
both
facto
threw
every
we
time.
both threw a vote away.
I voted initially in
Yeah.
the primary. I voted for Bernie, but I did vote for Hillary.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Bill Clinton was one of our best presidents we ever had. I mean, he was a moderate Democrat. He did huge amounts for a country, both economically as well as, I think, on the social level and cultural
Well, he
level.
did some great stuff, but he also did some stuff that we're paying for now. He definitely did things like what was
Stuck cigars up a girl's vagina.
The
a
ban
lot
on
of,
assault rifles bill was attached to the
three
mass
strikes rule,
incarceration bill.
which is three strike. Wasn't that three strike rule
yeah,
shit?
yeah, that,
basically.
and
yeah,
then
put a lot of
NAFTA,
niggas in jail.
which kind of gave big corporations, Ford, General Motors, all these sending jobs overseas and things
Well,
like that.
you know,
I'm
they were
all for
gonna-
fair trade.
Right, but goddamn.
the truth of that is that we tariff the shit out of everybody else.
We did. We always
In
did.
terms of
Yeah.
everything that comes in. You know what, for instance, a Honda would have cost back in the day without the tariff. It's like
3,000.
it's like 50%. We tariff that high. It's really pretty outrageous.
Damn.
And so the idea about NAFTA is, but you know what they do to us when we send a car, when we export, they tariff the shit out of us.
Yeah, right.
So the idea is in free trade is to allow that, shift from that tariffed element, and hopefully that's an equitable process. When BMW and Mercedes and all the and Honda and the Japanese car companies are sending all these vehicles over, but they're not buying any of ours because they're tariffing the heck out of our exports, and we're tariffing the heck out of theirs. But their price point is so much lower, so that even with the tariff, and actually value and quality, I mean, BMW made a big dent in this market. So did Honda because the quality was better
Quality
than
is
American.
better than American
Kia.
shitty made cars.
I mean,
Right.
you owned a Gremlin or a Maverick
Right.
within one season of Michigan weather. Mm-hmm. The rocker panels were rotted out.
Right.
That's what those foreign car companies in that competition created, was a better product in America.
Right.
They did, but we also seen what it did to some of the manufacturing industries and things like that.
But manufacturing, I mean, people do not really want to work in that capacity anyway.
they don't.
I mean, they will. They'll take the job. But automation is really what's taken over a huge amount of our manufacturing process.
Definitely the deadly process is like welding. And
But then they
like that.
complain about, we ain't got no jobs.
Well,
Because your ass didn't want to work when you had one. That's what happened. You was fucking lazy.
I was just watching something on the news
Right.
before I came in.
I can't watch this Shameless because you motherfuckers want me to work. What's fucking wrong with you?
They were
Get
talking
your
about all these
lazy ass
different
up.
technical jobs that are open up in Metro Detroit and things like that. And they're like, you don't even need a degree, just apply. You can do this, you can do that. They'll pay, for your schooling
Right.
and education and all. I'm like,
well, I think that's
Every
I
lazy
think that's a
motherfucker
good
you
thing
know
because
gonna sign up.
vocational jobs, in the trades, for instance,
Right.
we're running out of tradespeople.
right.
That's because everybody fucking lazy and want to be YouTube stars.
It's not that. It's
Well,
I don't count because I was already in. I've been in deep.
this is what you got to understand about a lot of the trades jobs. Like, they're almost kind of sacred. Joining the trades or any kind of union
Right.
is like a brotherhood system.
oh,
It's
it
like
is.
a-
Right,
Yeah, it's a
right.
journeyman. It's an
People-
apprentice journeyman.
Right.
You come
Union,
into,
UAW.
When you come into one of those, one of those industries, and you're kind of bullshitting and lollygagging, like the guys that are in the industry, people in the industry, they're watching you. They like, either you're gonna do the job right, you're gonna do the job safe, you know what I'm saying, or you can get the hell on. Because we don't need you out there in the field potentially putting one of us in harm's way.
Because you
Because,
bullshit.
because
Oh, yeah, definitely.
you didn't
Right.
want to do something the right way.
Right.
So that there's a lot of that going on, and when you have that, it makes other people kind of shy away because even though they want to be in this brotherhood or in this
Right,
unionized company or things like that,
Right.
they feel the pressure like, oh man, I'm gonna get it right next time, and it's like, look, if this was 10,000 votes, there is no next
It
time.
ain't no. It's
Right.
pink.
You know
It's
what I'm
pink.
saying?
It's a pink
Yeah.
miss.
Done for.
Well, I mean,
Right.
the only time I worked outside of the film industry, I worked for my brother who owned a high-end construction company in New York, and I was a project manager. And I remember being on this one job for a major architectural company that we were redoing their space. We had ordered this $30,000 LED light, okay, that had a ballast with it. The electrician, who was a German electrician, unionized, was about to plug it into a wall to 110, which would have fried the thing.
Fried the shit out of everybody.
And so I ran across the room and I literally tackled this guy.
Damn.
And he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Dude,
Saving your ass.
it took us
motherfucker.
12 weeks to get that unit. You were going to fry it in 1 second." I
Man.
go, "Did you even look at the directions?" So I called
Man.
his boss. I called the owner of the company. I said, get this guy off the job site. He's a fuck up. He didn't take the time or energy. And to be perfectly honest with you, I found that the level of both on time to work as well as quality of work with a number of the union people that we were working with.
Yeah.
And non-union, because we did work with some Malaysians.
All right.
That were
Shout out to all the
that were
Malaysian
legal. That were
viewers.
legal.
We love all
No,
Malaysian viewers.
But the reality of it is that if you paid them on Thursday, you would not see them until
Nah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
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 know?
That's anywhere now.
So-
That's okay people on Friday.
And
Yeah, you can't
have a
pay
lot of that,
motherfuckers on
and
Monday.
and that's one of the things that they're trying to change. They're trying to change the old guard. They're
Uh-huh.
trying to,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the benefit of working with the older guys is they've seen and done a lot. that
Right, the
you've never
experience
seen or
level,
done,
right.
So they can groom you on that.
Right.
But you need the younger guys to come in that are ready to learn the new technologies, to
Exactly.
learn the new things that are
Right.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
have
they
that
do.
have learned that
Right,
throughout
right.
their education.
Right, and so that's what's going on. But a lot of people just they don't have the technical aptitude, or they don't want to learn, these
Right.
processes. Oh, it's just too hard, or I ain't been to school in 10, 20 years, or
Right.
just these different things. So we gotta, find a
Yeah,
middle
that
ground.
recalibration.
You
Yeah.
gotta find a middle ground and
Right.
definitely find a balance to get more people into the trades industry.
Well, and the trade industries just aren't
period.
sexy. I mean,
No, it ain't.
Yes.
everybody, like you said, everybody wants to become a YouTuber.
Everybody want to be a
you know?
YouTuber.
Money
I
is
can
sexy.
sit and make do little
Yeah.
bullshit
Yeah.
and get paid.
hours
good
are
at it.
Crap,
Yeah.
but it's guys.
Good at it.
It's guys in
You might not
different
even have to be
industries
good
making
at
a
it.
couple hundred
Yeah.
grand.
No, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
they're-
because you got a certificate, you're a journeyman. 250,000.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making like 160
So when,
bucks an
so
hour.
when you put those numbers behind it, and you tell these kids, look, you can have this kind of money easy
Yeah.
if you learn this trade.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody did that before. I don't
Right.
think anybody.
And
doing
that's
it
the
now.
problem. They don't.
They don't
that ain't
instill
hype.
that. Yeah, they
because
don't.
that's work.
Right.
And they want to look, motherfucker, sit on your ass, make these videos, and get these hoes.
Well,
That's it.
but
They
that's
don't
the
want to.
thing.
They don't want people to
But
work.
Everybody's not into that. Like, I wasn't into that
Nah.
as a kid. You know what I'm saying?
Nah.
I wanted to be
Me either.
me. you
Right.
know?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
and I mean, I think part of my childhood, the greatest part of my childhood, was being outside with my
Outside.
friends,
Yeah, from the hair on
doing
your skin.
adventures.
Right.
You know,
Right. That's what
Fucking
I was
up.
outdoors.
building things.
Yeah.
Being crazy
Yeah.
sometimes,
Right.
just like obviously like
Experimenting,
riding
doing all
motorcycles or dirt bikes or something like that, or
Popping off ramps and
building a ramp
off
out of
bikes,
you
all
know,
type of shit.
going to the
That's what
house
it's
that's
all
being
about.
built on the corner
Man,
and
this
taking a
kid's
piece
be
of
in the
plywood.
house. Kids be in the house with the phone.
So
Right.
That's all they do. Like, they don't do shit. Like, I'm like, man, take your ass outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I'll be looking at it like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, get out of there.
You gotta cut off
go
the video
outside.
games.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta cut out the video games.
I mean, that's what
You gotta get
No.
them outside the crib. You
my
need
former
10 friends.
my former girlfriend. I met her son when he was 10 and a half.
Yeah.
Actually 9 and a half.
Yeah.
And he did Minecraft. That was an a skate
Yeah.
game.
Tony Hawk,
Yeah.
that was a shit.
And
It was a
but
shit. I ain't gonna lie.
Nothing like Grand Theft Auto
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Tour Duty or whatever,
Yeah, Call of Duty.
Call
that
of
was the
Duty.
shit.
those are. People get hooked on those like big time.
It's easy to get hooked.
I
It's
remember
fun.
when Doom came out when I was.
Oh,
when
yeah.
It's horrible.
I
Doom
mean,
was horrible.
people. You know something?
Yeah.
They literally had to ban Doom in
Yeah.
offices.
I remember it.
because
Yeah.
because people would get hooked on.
When my
gotta get to the
dad,
next level.
we used to go to my dad like every other weekend, and he used to be like work with like computers and shit, and he would have to work on the weekends, but he would take us with him, and he would have us come with him, and he'd have us linked up to 3 different computers. All we'd be playing Doom.
Exactly.
We'd be playing Doom like 1, 12 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I go to sleep, wake up, see little red, bloody motherfuckers coming at you with claws and shit. Like, I used to have nightmares about Doom. Like, it was imprinted in my brain.
Well, I remember even within my partner and I, we would get on the computer.
That was the shit.
At like 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yeah.
and we played till like 9 and go like.
Doom. Doom was that.
Until
That set
finally
the
we
tone
just
for
went,
this shit.
wow, we just lost 5 hours of our lives playing
Losing
this
it.
bullshit.
Didn't even
And then
know.
we reached that level that
Yeah.
then you had to start paying for it.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We would beat the game. We was good. We was
Oh,
real
yeah.
good.
So another thing I want to
Doom.
bring up
Fucking
is
Doom.
what happened with this whole conspiracy, this electromagnetic pulse that was supposed to knock out the power in the country, and all these things that was supposed to happen that was going on. I was like, yo, people need to not get their information from Facebook. Like, I mean,
Oh, was this
watch
recent?
The news.
Yeah.
It was this week.
Oh, really?
Today was supposed to be the day. All the power was supposed to go out in the whole country. And,
From like a coronal mass ejection from the sun or something?
From like
No,
an
no, no,
EPM.
from,
EMP.
from electro
magnetic pulse?
Yeah. Which would knock out
They were supposed to
airplanes,
they were supposed to-
satellites.
yeah, they were
You know what
supposed
I'm saying?
That
All type of shit.
somebody terrestrially was doing?
It was supposed to be a predicted blackout, basically.
Oh, okay.
over
Yeah.
the whole country.
Well, I mean,
And I was like,
we
hold on.
do face the reality of
Those
coronal
we face
mass
those kinds of
ejection.
threats.
We
But-
faced
but
them.
the thing
And
is, the thing is that people were like, oh, the government's doing it, Department of Defense.
That's like
they're
2YK,
testing.
you know?
Yeah, right.
So it
didn't
was
happen.
just this whole thing, and
And somebody might was like,
people
"Well,
had
man."
made videos and all this. The
Yeah.
governments are they didn't want to warn us. They didn't want mass
Well,
hysteria.
I tell you, yeah.
was
Well,
just
I
crazy.
think part of that is a little bit of testing what society would do.
What they would do in them
extreme
situations, right?
You know?
Right. Will they be chill? Can this happen? And they dumbass still.
Well, I mean,
people,
for instance,
people will react just like they're trained to react. The things that you see in movies, how people react, that's actual visual training
Oh, yeah.
of
Yeah.
what you're supposed to do or you think you're supposed to do.
Right,
Because,
right.
that's the only time you've ever seen it. It's just like watching The Walking Dead. You think you're supposed to go around killing zombies because that's what they're doing in the show.
I'm killing zombies. I don't give a fuck.
But I'm just,
If zombie apocalypse happen, I
just
know.
saying,
Go
if
for the head.
If you could
Killing
avoid,
zombies-
I'm saying
the
if
zombies
you
are-
could avoid the zombies.
You know
Oh
something?
yeah, I'm avoiding
the
them.
zombies
but,
are
yeah, if I
nothing
have
in
to.
that show.
Yeah.
The zombies are background.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
The people that are normal or supposed to be
Yeah.
normal are the
Right.
scary
That's
people.
that's the worst
They're the
one.
ones that
yeah.
are fucking each
yeah,
other
but they
over.
do.
Yeah. You don't remember. You remember that motherfucker? You remember Negan? You remember who the fuck was the real threat? It was Negan. It went
Right,
this
exactly.
motherfucker.
You know how every blue moon there's something going on that they're not telling us about. We
Oh, right.
understand that the government has things that are top secret they're not going to tell us about. When it comes down to things like that, like I think they would probably prepare us. And I only say
Well,
that because
And
you're
Zombie
talking about
apocalypse.
hurting the.
But
the-
how
you're
much
talking
time
about-
they gonna give
I
us?
don't
But what-
we're
you know what's
talking
really
about hurting
interesting-
The financial markets.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about.
the food system, everything.
Yeah, all of this
I would hope
Communication.
so.
We,
Yeah.
I'm like, we might as well give the country to North Korea and Russia if we gonna turn the power off completely for 4 to 5 days.
Right. Well, the reality of that is the survivor of the technological paradigm is Borneo Man. Is the people who aren't on the grid,
Right.
who still live in primitive form,
Right.
but are happy as hell.
And don't even
and they
know
will
about
not be
none of this
affected.
shit. Nah.
They
Yeah, no
literally
bills and all
they will
that.
not
No
be
bills.
affected
Solar
because
power.
Ashy ass booty walking around with a spear. They don't give a fuck, you know. They
living in a
don't
tiny
give a
house
damn.
with his
somewhere with
Koteki
solar
out,
Yeah,
and his
yeah.
his gourd on his penis.
He don't care.
They ain't paying no
Got
rent.
the little
They
no
family
rent.
on the land.
Yeah.
Family
They
on
on
the
the
land.
land.
They living in a tiny house.
Yeah, exactly.
They got some animals they farm and
Right.
eat. And
They're
that's,
self-sustaining.
that's it. Yeah.
They don't worry about
They don't
this
need the bullshit.
They ain't worried
I
about
They
would
that.
don't
love
need
to be
this
that
kind
way,
of
but I
crap.
would be-
Bop, bop, bop.
Right. I would be bored without Netflix. So
Cause it's a
I
We-
can
we
go
have been
primitive, but I
sucked
need
in.
Netflix and Call of Duty. That's what I need.
Well,
Yeah,
I
couldn't
think
do it.
in society of that nature, you have other joys. You have familial relationships that are probably much deeper than you can even imagine. You have the pride of growing your own food, of not going to a store and buying, huge chickens that are 4 times the size that they're supposed to be. I heard this report on NPR yesterday.
I know most
about-
black families had like that grandmother or grandfather, somebody. You had a garden in that backyard,
Right, absolutely.
And they grew tomatoes
and collard
possibly some
greens.
corn and lettuce and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You have to go out there
Kale.
and pick it and all that type of stuff. Like I like the fried green tomatoes and maybe some okra or something, but some of the other stuff I was like, I ain't eating that.
I like chitlins and pig feet. Fuck all that. Bacon, I'm eating, but I can't fuck with no pig feet. That motherfucker, the texture is not good. That motherfucker.
Yeah, that's
feel
because
like
if that's all that you get.
Yeah, this is, you gotta make it.
You gotta make
if
it
they
happen.
fried pig feet, I may be able to fuck with because that's bacon-esque. But I can't do bacon-esque. I can't fuck with no regular.
You can roll
pig
it
feet.
around with your other vegetables and stuff like that. And get the
that
flavor.
I don't notice.
Get the
it.
flavor.
Yeah, see, I can do all that.
And you just throw the pig feet out.
Because they'll give you the pig foot, the whole, you done had pig
yeah.
feet.
Oh,
you
yeah, I
you
have.
done been around
Yeah.
niggas. So you know
No, I
pig
have,
feet. You know what I'm saying? You done see pig feet. Nigga, them motherfuckers
Or like
is nasty.
you go to dim sum and
right. Yeah,
and you eat
in the
chicken
real
feet.
shit.
You
Yeah,
know,
right.
You're like that.
I've seen chicken feet smell horrible.
Oh, I know. I did that once with one foot. That's all I needed.
Ew, nah,
Yeah, this some
I ain't-
bullshit right
I'm
now.
not- I'm not gonna eat-
I
I'm-
ain't no feet.
I don't either.
Yeah, I ain't no chicken feet.
That is-
I ain't kissing no thought feet.
That's
I'm
not my
definitely
thing.
kissing
Those
thought
feet
gonna
thing,
happen,
that feet thing. I don't.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about, the Houston Texans coach? He comes out and, uses the wrong analogy quote. And, they're trying to clean
in terms
it up.
of the MLB and
Yeah.
the
Oh, you talking
World
about
Series.
the
Well, he
prison
said
term.
basically, he basically
What did he say? I didn't hear.
Basically equated the players as prisoners and the owners as the prison. And he's like, we can't
As
have,
the warden.
Yeah, yeah. So he's like, we can't have the inmates take over the prison, basically. And
Yeah,
there's definitely been an uproar about that. There's
Wow.
been so much controversy in the NFL this year. It's crazy. And it's just like one thing after another, one thing after another. You had the one incident in the NBA with the LA Clippers,
Right.
and everything was kind of shut down after that. They made him sell the team and all that, but the NFL owners are definitely
I think the NFL is running scared. You know why? Number one, in about 15 years, they're not going to have recruitability
right,
because high schoolers are not going to be able to play football.
right,
Simply because you have to sign a waiver. As a parent, you have to sign a waiver for your kid. The minute the insurance companies say, if you sign a waiver for your child, then we're not going to cover that child.
right.
Because that's a high-risk situation, or you're going to pay a premium.
Right.
The minute parents have to pay a premium above and beyond on health insurance for their children, they are not going to do it. It's expensive enough, I mean, it's like it's like at least $150 per kid
Damn.
to play any sport in any school system, public school system. now.
Right now it is. It used to be free.
It was free.
Free.
Man, we got good equipment. And, every 3 years
Please
they
take
they
this.
got new equipment.
Right.
But I can tell you,
jerseys
I played
and shit.
football at least from the time I was 9 until I was 17.
Yeah.
And the amount of bodily damage was pretty great. I mean, you're resilient at that time. But I still have spinal
Right.
compression
Got
from
fucked
it.
up.
Yeah.
Concussions and shit.
I
Had a
broke my nose
yeah,
3 times. I
sprained
broke
elbow.
this finger will be definitely a problem in the future because it's going to get arthritic because it would every day in practice it would end up at a 90-degree angle from that joint. And my hands, my brothers, both of mine, we played defensive backs. We were safeties and corners, and boy,
Got
brutal.
that, and then the big thing is CTE now.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And I'm looking at I was looking at an interview that Terry Crews did, and he was like, you know what? They're talking about CTE in the NFL, but he's like, it starts college,
Exactly, high
high
school.
You
Absolutely.
taking
you
these
take
hits
those
and things
hits,
like
man. And
That shit painful.
some of the equipment that we had initially was really piss poor. I mean, I can tell you that in middle school, well, we had junior high. We didn't have middle school. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Right.
And the 8th graders got the shitty helmets. You know? It was like, and the padding was like rock inside, because it was dried up. You know, and they'd hand you a helmet like that.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how many times my helmet got like ripped off my head, and you were hitting the ground or you're hitting somebody's body or something like that. You know, I mean, I'm surprised in actuality that kids, more kids didn't like just be in a coma. You know?
Definitely.
But certainly, you know, hematoma can start easily back then. I mean, you can bruise your tissue in the interior of your skull just enough not to necessarily bleed or be, you know, a total concussion or go into a coma. But you can certainly that damage. You keep doing that, boom, boom.
Yeah, you're gonna
boom,
definitely
you
get
know?
something coming out of that.
That.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that's been Papa John has come out and made statements about his pizza not selling because of the NFL protests.
Yeah,
And
Them
I'm like,
motherfuckers is
are you
not that
serious?
great.
Like that's
That's
the
tied to that.
That's
Yeah.
the statement.
You gonna blame
that
it on that? What fucked me up is
That's a
I
statement.
So
never
going
really
down on
like-
one knee, people don't want to buy pizza from Papa
Yeah,
John's.
because people are not watching football. They're
Yeah.
not buying pizza. I
Not
was like,
buying
dude,
pizza.
people buy pizza all the
they want it,
time. I
right.
was like, you know, you might have to change your prices or make
You
some
know why they're
deals.
not watching the NFL anymore?
Yeah.
Because they're playing John Madden.
Yeah,
You got that.
yeah.
You got that, and then
Well,
just
Papa
the
John
NFL
pizza.
protest. But me personally, like, I never watched the regular season of anything. I
Yeah.
watched the
Playoffs,
playoffs. and highlights.
exactly.
That's the interesting. You know, college sports are way better than
The professional, yeah.
So
That's
I
Well,
what
watch
because
everybody
college.
say.
you know, by and large, that all professional sports are run by Vegas, right?
Of course.
Pretty much.
I mean, look at the Lions.
Right.
That game between
Right.
them and Kansas City, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They make it. They score a touchdown, okay,
Right.
and they do the roll off on the clock, you know. But that was all about the odds makers, and,
Right.
you know, that was about Vegas.
Yep. But see, with what was it? What was you talking about with the before we got to the
With Papa John.
yeah, Papa John's, them motherfuckers. I you know what's funny is when this whole story surfaced, I was like, have I ever purchased when it came out?
Did you ever
Have
buy
I
a
ever
Papa
purchased Papa John's pizza? Like I literally went deep into my pizza psyche and was like, have I ever purchased they shit?
I think I've had Papa John's once, and I think it was because we were pitching them.
Did you buy it though?
No.
I didn't either. Like the Papa John's
what I
pizza
said.
I
We were pitching
had
them,
was
so
never
they
purchased
said,
back
"Here,
then.
you know, here's love."
Yeah.
I've bought
I've-
Papa John's.
I've never
and I've had
purchased
Papa
Papa
John's.
John's.
My sister went to school at Eastern, and they
Yeah.
had Papa John's. That's where I got introduced to it up at Eastern.
Yeah, because it was probably
So,
because it was the closest pizza place to where y'all was
one
at.
of the most popular ones.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You know.
but I mean, I honestly, up until this shit happened, that was the last pizza place. Papa Romano's, definitely. You know, you got Little Caesars, Domino's,
Right.
You know, Pizza Hut. Them motherfuckers always pop. You know, Hungry Howie's. None of them is paying us, but them is the ones that I think about
You
when
gonna
it comes to
frequent
pizza.
what's
What you-
in the vicinity of where you live.
Yeah, but it got to be good. It's
Yeah,
a Papa
especially
John's
if
not
it's-
too far from
if
me.
it's a
though.
delivery
But I don't
situation.
fuck with it because it's just not that great.
I never even look for delivery pizza no more.
No, I go pick it up.
Pizza
Yeah.
I go
stopped
pick it up,
delivering
too.
to
You-
us years ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. I go pick
The
it up.
saying is, Pizza Man don't come around here. no more.
Pizza Man, yeah, the Lupe. Shout out to Lupe.
Right, 'cause
But
that's
yeah.
exactly
Why
what
did they
happened.
take his?
Yeah.
Did they take his tires?
I don't know.
You know, I
I've
remember
never
back, you know,
bought
when I
Papa
was
John's.
younger, they would rob the Pizza Man or give him fake money.
Yeah, fake
or,
money. Pizza Man
you know,
don't-
or
Pizza
you
Man
know,
don't come right. He
to
ain't
get the
no
pizza
well.
free, not
Right.
answer the door, things
Right.
like that. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's 35 minutes out.
Oh, yeah.
It's free.
Free.
It's like I was here on
Right.
time. I've been knocking
Right.
You know, so
Wow.
all those different things. Man.
Yep, that shit was funny.
It's
To make some money. I remember that shit.
Unless you're the
We
pizza
did
guy.
that. Pizza don't come around
If
here.
you're the pizza
That was a
guy
great
or you
song
own the
by
pizza
Lupe
shop,
Fiasco.
it's not funny.
No, it ain't.
I mean,
You done
it's
wasted your
just
gas
like
money.
No, but I
more-
prefer to pick
more
pizza up.
fast food.
Me too.
I prefer
Yeah.
to pick it up because it's hot.
Mhm.
You know?
I don't want nothing delivered because you know been to 3 motherfuckers before me. By the time you get to me,
And have you seen some of those cars?
Yeah, fucking
Your
hot bottles and
pizza's
shit.
gonna get bruised on the
Yeah,
way.
bruises. It's gonna get scabies.
You
Your
car-
pizza gonna
you
get scabies. How the
It
fuck
could
am I
have
gonna know pizza with
kerosene in
scabies
it by
in
the
this
time it
motherfucker?
gets to you.
Yeah, nasty ass
Domino's,
car.
They put a pizza warmer
Yeah,
built
yeah,
in
yeah.
the car and shit.
That don't matter.
That
That scabies gonna eat through that
Cockroaches can
shit.
still get
I'm
the
like,
pizza
Yeah,
warmer.
scabies
I'm
gonna
just
get
saying,
through
I'm
that
just saying,
shit.
y'all going too far to deliver a pizza. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I used to work at a pizza. You used to work at one too. But
I used to work
they
at Little
yeah,
Caesars.
I used to work at Hungry Howie's. The motherfuckers be out rain, sleet, and snow delivering pizzas. Bitch, it's 6 inches of snow. Fuck you and your hunger.
Right.
Like, I'm not about to deliver this bitch. I'm not doing
Being
that.
in a hot ass pizza oven kitchen in the summertime,
Yeah,
cutting
that's
up
horrible.
slices and shit,
Yeah.
sweating to the oldies in that motherfucker.
Dripping
you know
over
what
the
I'm saying?
Parmesan.
You gotta get
Dripping, you know.
And people have the nerve to try and tell you how to either cut their pizza, how much stuff to put on it, or the boss is riding your ass like you cut too many slices. Like, look, these motherfuckers can go home with their own pizza cutter and cut as many slices they want. So why does it matter that I cut it up into 12 slices?
Right.
It don't goddamn matter. They pay
Right.
for the whole pie.
And they can
They
can
gonna
eat
eat the
two
whole
They gonna
pie.
divvy it up,
next to each
right,
other.
right,
Cut.
right.
You know what I'm saying? They're like,
They'll figure this
but
shit
you're
out.
not supposed to do that. I'm like, well, shit, y'all need to take that. You see that? That tells you how many slices you can cut it to. Y'all need to take that shit down. I'm like, because I'm going every which way with this motherfucking cutter.
I got to
This
do a
is
show
ridiculous.
tonight at
That's ridiculous.
Blarney Stone Pub. I got to be
At
there.
the Blarney Stone
Yeah.
in my look.
Yeah.
On Woodward,
Yeah.
just north of 11.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be there. I gotta be there by 9. So I'm gonna be leaving out in about 5 minutes because I gotta do a show.
Right.
Shout out to Blarney's.
I hate that I was late today getting set up. But we definitely got to do this again. We got to invite Chuck back.
I'd love to come back. It's a good time.
Bring the funny and discuss these topics, man. There's
was
so
fun
many
as
different
hell.
things going on in the world that we can discuss and, just have commentary to where it doesn't have to be out of hand.
Right.
I think that people today don't actually know how to use their words and
Right.
discuss things and try to find that medium. Everybody wants to fly off the handle about this, that, and the third. Who can use what word? Who can't use what word? And things like that. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
when you do the history of things like this, it's just like it doesn't even make sense. A lot of the language that we use is called English, but the words come from Latin.
Right.
And words that we think are defensive were used by people not to even defame you,
Right.
but
Right.
because
To
that was the only
embrace you.
description that they knew in their
Right.
language.
And sometimes it was to embrace you.
Right.
But it done
Yeah,
been turned around to being something completely negative.
Right. And
A lot of words.
so at the
Faggot.
end of the day, we can't fight the wars of our ancestors. We can only move forward with the time and history that we have here. So
Right.
I'm hoping that one day, we can reach that medium, and stop all the hating and different
Right.
things that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a need for distinction of races and color because we all have distinct and interesting cultures.
Right.
And to deny any individual or to I don't see color when I'm with people,
Right.
but I respect color.
I see color, but I respect it. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I mean,
I do. I can't say I can't see it.
because I don't I react to every person on
mean,
an
I
individual
judge 'em on it.
basis.
I see it, but I don't judge people on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, you white, whatever.
Well, that's
you
what I
white.
mean, but,
you know what I'm saying?
I
I see, but I don't let, I don't see, I see a white person, and I'm like, all right, that person white. I'm not like, all right, I'm gonna expect this from that white person. I'm just, I know you white. I don't know where you came from. You could be a white dude from Detroit.
Well,
Or you
it's
could be white. You know what I'm saying? You could be
yeah.
a white dude from Birmingham.
Right.
You could be a white dude
Right.
from.
But it's a
Howell,
pretty
Hall.
automatic. I
Yeah,
mean, you know
you white.
visually
Yeah.
what a person's
Yeah.
race is.
But I'm not about to prejudge
Right.
how you gonna act based off of what you
prejudge,
look like.
you
Yeah,
know,
because I
is-
fuck
is
everybody
foolish.
up. They don't know if I'm gonna rob them or read them a book. They don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with them. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't have
Which you
like
do more often.
read a book. I definitely read a book more than I'm scared to rob people because I just
Because you can get shot.
yeah I can get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's-
Don't
Or
want
end
that.
up in jail.
no, and
Don't want to get hurt.
yeah, karma's a motherfucker. I've been robbed the motherfucker
You
that
don't.
got
But-
7 guns or paper spray.
It's like a discussion I keep having with him. I'm like, you take all of these different supposedly people with superiority complexes or supremacists, this and that and the third, and you give them all a DNA test.
Oh yeah. I was just talking to somebody about
when
this.
You find out, when they find out that they're not pure anything,
Right.
That takes away their whole cause.
Exactly.
Right. White power. You're 35%.
Yeah, they did that whole thing.
Huh?
They gave
I'm
free,
Mexican.
they gave
See?
free DNA tests to
it was on
white
National
supremacists.
Geographic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was hilarious because
All
this
white.
one guy's looking at, wow, I'm like 30% Mexican.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. About to kill itself.
Right. Everybody
Exactly.
everybody that you,
Yeah.
Appel.
Yeah.
I love that.
Just
everybody
like
that you
that.
dislike is like you're blended. It's in your DNA. So it's like for people to hate each other because of supposed race
Color
and,
and race.
and color and all that stuff is
It boils down to ignorance. That's all.
It
Yeah,
does. It
ignorance.
does.
You know?
And another
When you
thing-
travel the world, you realize that there isn't a single person, color, creed, religion, that's any different than any of us.
right.
Yeah.
We are the same in terms of how we react to
Yeah.
family, how we react to, unless you're a sociopath, how you react to each other in society. It's just, we are the same.
And it don't
You know?
matter whether you black, Chinese, white, Puerto Rican. We all black when lights go out, and we all pink on the inside.
But all of those,
You know what I'm saying?
What we have to learn is all of those are descriptive words.
Right.
Yeah.
People have these cultures because of where they
Where they
grew
were
up
born,
at,
where
where
they
their
grew up,
ancestors
right.
grew up at,
Right.
what their ancestors went through.
Right.
Like we may be speaking a whole different language if we wasn't raised in America.
Right. You
Right.
would be.
Islanders speak,
Right.
different languages because of the different inhabitants of their islands over the years and things
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
and one
So-
thing that happened to me one time, I was
I'm about to
invited.
get up out of here. Excuse me, because I got to do this show.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pack up my
Go
tablet.
be a comedian.
I'm gonna gotta go be a comedian tonight. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing Chuck through.
Thank you,
And
Chuck,
good luck
for
on
coming
your show.
I appreciate it, Chuck.
Make some funny content. Maybe I'll stop by.
You might stop by.
See your ass.
Cool, yeah. I'm literally gonna go up like at 9:15, so you will miss me. But if they late, you won't miss me. So it depends. Yeah. Let me grab my stuff.
Thank you. Thank you
Right.
for.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
Chuck.
much
I
for inviting me.
appreciate it.
Appreciate
Dome
it.
City TV and everything. Everything is dope.
But yeah, what were you saying,
Oh, I
Chuck?
was saying, Congressman Conyers invited me to a Christmas party one time, and
Okay.
it was a mixed party, in terms of the ratio probably black to white was 4/5 black, 1/5 white. But as I looked around the room, I noticed very distinctive kind of groups, cliques,
Right.
tribes, essentially, by virtue of physicality, color, depth of color as well as lightness. And he came up to me and I just said to him, I go, it's really interesting that essentially you've got like the whole African nation here, along with a little bit of that mix of, into the Americas. And it's amazing that people lump a race together when they are so really separate and distinct, even within. It's like taking Caucasians and saying, oh, Polish guy is the same as an English guy.
Right.
Yeah, they're the same color, but their cultures are entirely different.
Right.
Or, an Australian versus a islander,
Right.
that came to the islands back in the day when Cook landed or Magellan,
Right.
And so he said to me, he goes, that's an interesting observation from the standpoint of, you have to recognize the fact that we don't necessarily know our ancestry, but we intuitively feel it. We intuitively group together within that, Maasai or Guineans or,
Right.
and it's just a natural attraction,
Right.
both because of the physicality as well as I think culturally even,
Right.
the divisions there. I mean, Africa's a massive, continent.
Right.
There's very diverse cultures there,
Right.
It
is
And-
because everyone on the continent is different. Everyone from different countries in Africa are different.
different.
They have different cultures, different backgrounds, different stories. So,
Right.
You know, same thing in the U.S.
Yeah.
But the thing that I don't get is why, you know, we have to make it. Well, I do get it because of what I found when I studied history, the things that I was looking at, and you know, a lot of the hatred started because slavery.
Right.
A lot of the, you know, everybody was either a indentured servant or some kind of whatever when they came over here.
Right.
You know, you have rich people of all different classes. All these different people had slaves and things.
Right.
And then, you know, they wanted people to work their land and different things like that. So to get people to join their cause, you know, they tricked them. Like, hey, you know why you ain't got a job? Because these people over here and these people over here are taking all the jobs.
Right. Or we'll give you land to work
You
that
know?
you can feed your family with. But you're bound to us for that. I mean, it's interesting. In Jamestown, you know, according to Howard Zinn and the history of the United States, interesting book from the standpoint of what Jamestown was. So Jamestown was really founded by, initially, some pretty wealthy Tories from England.
Right.
Partially escaping, not quite as much as, say, the pilgrimage by the Pilgrims and that type of thing, where they were, you know, escaping religious persecution.
Right.
Individuals that lived in Jamestown in the winter found that it was better to go live with the Native Americans at that point because they knew how to survive a winter.
Right.
But if you did that, if you came back, you were enslaved or killed.
Right.
Because the white power structure wanted to control those people.
Right.
And it needed those people to make them money. Because everybody, like you said, that came over, other than the group of, you know, the extremely wealthy,
Right.
were interested in one thing: slave labor. Other people doing their work and them making the benefit and the profits from it.
Right.
And, you know, so you were either, if you were white, actually, you were indentured when you came back. You were enslaved. If you were black or any other, you know, race, you were essentially killed. They would hang you, just so that they would ensure that people wouldn't do it. Well, I think there was one winter, I'm not exactly sure, it was in the 1600s, in which everybody left because it was such a hard winter, except for a few of the Tories. You know what happened to them? They died.
Yeah.
So when the people came back into Jamestown in the spring from the you know, Native American hospitality and environment,
Right.
they came back and owned the town. It was pretty interesting. It's karmic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, history, definitely. Like, you know, just reading some of the different things in history that they don't mention. You know, about, you know, there were other cultures that were, you know, that were here making money and had slaves and all. It wasn't just white. It wasn't just
the Incas.
Black. There was all types of people that were enslaved.
The Mayan culture. You know, they both groups had. You know.
But I think that the American history that we learned in our history books in school kind of painted more of a picture to kind of demonize or make it, you know what I'm saying, kind of put, I guess, fear almost.
Yeah.
In
Well,
the mind
again,
about, okay, well, this happened, white slave owners did this to their black slaves and this happened, but they never tell the other stories or the other sides of what happened with other people when they had slaves as well, and as well as, other Africans having Africans as slaves.
For instance, Christopher Columbus, when he landed on, the East Indies Islands,
Right.
the Arawak that lived there, approximately 30,000 population. Within 5 years, he systematically committed genocide.
Right.
There were literally less than 500 left after 5 years because Columbus was there for one reason, to get gold,
right.
for the crown.
Right.
For
And he tortured
For
women,
the Spanish.
men, children, raped,
Yep.
pillaged, plundered, and everything else.
And literally, Columbus found gold there in small amounts,
Right.
necklaces and things. But most of those were traded from essentially west of there,
Right.
along the coast of South America
Right.
and the Central Americas, where gold was
Right.
available and mined by the Incans, the Mayans. So Columbus basically said, if you don't bring me X amount of gold, we cut your hands off.
Right.
What happens when you cut people's hands off?
They can't mine.
They can't mine. They can't
rank
eat.
you to go-
They can't do anything. You know?
Right.
So, I mean, he decimated the population within 5 years of
Yeah, he
arrival
did.
there.
Yeah,
And he's our, we have
And I don't know why he's a martyr.
I don't
And,
either, man.
I heard that they
They want to change Columbus Day.
They brought a bunch of people from other places just to kind of repopulate the island. I was
Yeah.
like, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
So
And they turned it in, the British and the Dutch and, turned it into a plantation society in which they exploited the hell out of
Right.
the people actually that they brought from Africa, that they
Right.
enslaved, because many of the indigenous people of those islands were not necessarily, they were more Hispanic than they were African.
Right.
You know.
But there were African tribes that had already been
Been
in
there,
the same
right.
islands and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Exactly.
but they, I guess they knew offhand, like, okay, we can't enslave them, so what we gonna do?
Right.
A lot of craziness. in
All
history.
based upon greed and power.
Pretty much.
And the proselytization of the indigenous people to be Christians, or
That, yeah. When you look at history, it's always been some form of servitude, period, point blank, where you have kings, queens, whether it be Pharaoh, whether it be, whoever, there's always been people to serve,
Right.
so, and that's just like,
And there have been benevolent, leadership like that, and then there have been, the most horrible, the despots, that
Definitely.
all they do is take, and then their people are starving, and then the crazy thing about that is they're like going, oh, the people are starving, they're not producing anything anymore, so what happens to you? You're screwed, right?
Pretty much.
Doesn't matter how much money you have or what you have if your population is decimated.
Right.
And we're talking about manufacturing, and that's what corporations have done.
Yeah.
If suddenly all your workers are out of jobs, they're not going to buy your product.
Definitely not.
They don't have the money to.
Right. Can't
So,
afford to make.
they can't
afford to buy what you make.
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely happens.
Yeah. And if you don't have the job, you're not making that any longer, but nobody else is going to buy it,
Right.
I mean, there isn't the volume that, there.
Yeah,
So-
you definitely need the population to contribute.
But,
to make the product and continue to buy the product.
I don't necessarily, I have a real, it's a double-edged sword, I think, and there's a real dichotomy with regard, and I have ambivalence to the fact that I don't think we're manufacturing people. I don't think we can be in a assembly line situation and have any kind of real life, I think it's mind-numbing. I think all you're doing is getting a paycheck, and that's why people eventually try to find ways not to have to work, not to
Right.
have to do the job, unless it's totally by necessity,
Right.
because it is mind-numbing,
It is.
And you have situations that then an individual, all they're thinking about is their vacation and what they do in their leisure time.
yeah.
They don't care about the job.
Yeah.
'Cause the
I work in
job
that
is
industry,
mind-numbing.
So I definitely
Yeah.
know. I definitely know. And it's definitely that when I'm at work, mentally I'm not there.
Right.
I don't want to be there mentally. But I know I have to be there, to provide for my family. So,
Right.
And to support anything that I'm trying to do to get me away
from that. Exactly. So that, it's a
Definitely a
I'm
double-edged sword.
I'm very thankful that and very happy that I can say that I've worked in the film industry my entire life. I have not had a day job that's outside of it, other than, like I said, the 8 months that I worked, because I quit making movies for 8 months because I was just, I had 5 projects go poof. Said I'm done. That was, when I was about 54. So that was a number of years into my career.
So, but being able to live off creating your own content for majority of your life, that's got to be like one of the most incredible feelings.
It is. It's a great feeling. It's self-expression. I mean, to be an artist and really, by and large, I like money to the degree that it affords the freedom, but I don't seek money. I don't really, and probably at a fault. I mean, I probably should be very wealthy by now, and but I don't seek that. I seek self-expression. I seek, and I'm not a starving artist, at least not in most days. But certainly, there are obviously the down times and there are the up times, and you have to know how to weather that storm. If you panic during the downtime, you will not continue. You'll seek out a job that is a day job away from what you do.
Right, because you won't be in the mind frame to be creative.
Exactly.
And if you're not creative, you're not creating art.
When you're in the fight or flight mode,
Right.
when you're panicked, you're not creative.
Right.
You're just trying to make ends meet. And so, it's interesting. I think one of the most profound things I ever saw in a movie was in Spielberg's Bridge of Spies, when Tom Hanks is the spy is the attorney for the spy who got caught, and Tom Hanks looks at Mark Rylance, and he says, "Aren't you worried?" And the spy, Mark Rylance, says, "Does it help?" And it's true. Whenever I get in that situation, I think I will not function if I worry. I will be physically battling stomach issues, headaches, all that stuff.
Right.
Along with not being able to create and not being able to really think straight.
Right.
So it's like, between Buddha and, I have my little mantra, and that simple moment, of, does it help?
Right. That's
I don't go there.
This moment of clarity, right?
Exactly. I think it's interesting because I think your mind chemistry changes radically when you're in a panic mode. We do. We pump adrenaline. It shuts down other receptors in our brains.
Right.
And consequently, we can't move forward. We kind of become somehow quiescent,
Yeah, I look at a lot of this stuff as learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely learned behavior, and I think 90% of the time things are perception. How you perceive things is how you think about it, and it's what keeps you in this box.
Right.
If you perceive that everything in the world is as you see it and there's no other possibilities, you can be stuck in this box.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not going to be able to see your way out.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained, me and Jeremiah was talking about that, and I said, it's all about perception. I was like, we perceive money as wealth. We perceive this person to be in power. We perceive this,
right.
I said, but if you look at it in another way, and you look at what you're able to do and what you're able to create,
right,
and understand that you can pretty much do anything.
You can. It's that
perception-
recalibration. Throughout my life, my parents have said, hey, the norm kind of things. Hey, why aren't you married? Why aren't you getting married? Or are you going to get married to that girl? Whatever.
Right.
Or, don't you want to make more money? Blah, blah, blah. Or why aren't you making more money? And I'll go, so I really don't need to.
Right. Yeah. Live a good life on what you make, and you don't overspend.
Exactly.
But everybody, there's this perception of the more material wealth of things that you have, the more money you have, it makes your life that much better.
Well, here's my my perspective on that is that it's just stuff. You know? If you, yeah, again, most of the time people are not self-aware enough, or they don't get enough stimulation from their jobs because they're bored with them, or they just did it to make money.
Right.
And then what do they do with the money? They just buy shit.
Yeah, buy more stuff.
Exactly. And in the end, it just becomes a vicious cycle. You know, I love antiques. I love great artwork. I love books. I love music. And that's what I spend my money on.
Right.
But I don't need it, any of it. And when I was about 54, I purged myself of just about everything I owned. Simply because it became a burden at one point. If you have stuff, you have to maintain it. Or you have to have the space for it. Or you have to you have to vet it eventually. You know, you have to let things go and hopefully improve. But the way I looked at everything that I ever bought or found was from the standpoint of what its intrinsic expression value was for me, what it gave me emotionally.
Right.
So I didn't buy things like a new car necessarily. I bought a vintage Porsche because it's art, you know?
Right.
Or I would buy a beautiful piece of pottery because it's art. It's something that I want to look at and I love, and the beauty of it,
Right.
the aesthetic of it. And I think that, but yet, poof, it's transitional. It is transient, you know? And you can't hold on to anything material ever anyway. It can break. It can be stolen. It can just no longer interest you.
Right.
So from that standpoint, you know, what you have, for me, what I find truly valuable is to be able to self-express, to be able to have the opportunity and the luck and also kind of the educational portion of it, that I've been always able to do that. And there have been moments where I've had writer's block, for instance, or something like that. But if you continue to plow through it, I for 6 months, I literally was writing one sentence a day on a script, but 4 different scripts. After this first 6 months, after I went to therapy, I began to write 3 sentences. And I'd write 6 hours a day, 3 sentences on 4 pieces. But at the end of 2 years, I had 4 screenplays finished, which is far more prolific than most people.
Right.
So,
right.
But that I had to keep writing. I had to keep expressing, even though it was so difficult.
Right.
But it was so liberating in the end. And I taught myself never to have writer's block again.
Right. So yeah, so just creating the art.
Yeah.
And staying at it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
that-
You got to do the work. It's a discipline. You know.
Yeah. A lot of people don't want to do it.
I know.
Well, thanks for coming out, Chuck. We're definitely going to have you again.
Okay. Appreciate it.
We had
Thank you
fun
again.
over here at Dome City Radio. Sorry I was late for today's episode, but we're definitely going to bring Chuck back, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.